But when we were sitting here preparing ourselves for the week, I noticed that Al threw in for his for next week, and I was like sitting here, okay, he's got a good topic, but I was like, I think there's one that goes right before that. So I jumped in and says, you got to know yourself. And Levy even jumped in and also came in, and she sat there and says, if anyone saw her little thing on Facebook and Instagram, she started off with saying, "Who are you?" That's all it said. Who are you? And that is the question. I was like, who are you? So, and the Spirit's book actually went into this one in a lot of detail. I as hard as it was for me to chop down to bullet points, I couldn't do it. There's just so much there. And it was even funny because as I'm doing my research, since we had the symposium this last weekend, we were going through some of our the posters that I used to have and things like that. We were reminiscing about times of old. We found a workbook of inner transformation. My whole lecture was already in it. I was like, ooh. I was like, okay. So he couldn't steal my thunder if I could, because I'm stealing someone else's thunder, because almost everything I was presenting was in that book. I couldn't believe it. But starts off, Spirit's book, question 919. What is the most effective means of improving ourselves in this life and the resisting of the draw of evil? The sage of antiquity has told you, know thyself. Okay. Simple answer, right? No, you're right. You got it. How many times have we seen this where they've gotten these real simple answers to a question, and yet when you sit and think about it, how complex it gets very fast. I mean, we're still arguing over the 10 Commandments and how to interpret those and what do those mean. So, and those were given 5,000 years ago, and we're still trying to figure it out. So, know thyself. Well, Allan Kardec, being the wise gentleman he is, threw a follow-up. We comprehend all the wisdom of that maxim, but the difficulty is precisely in knowing ourselves. By what means can we do so? Now, the spirits, in the Spirit's book, it's like a page and a half answering just that. So I'm cherry picking a few paragraphs out of it because it was just so much, and it's one of these things like I couldn't boil this down if I tried, because I'm sitting here looking at this, and here it's St. Augustine jumping in, and he's saying, well, this is what I did when I was alive in my last incarnation. At the end of each day, I examined my conscience, reviewed what I had done, and asked myself whether or not I had failed to fulfill some duty, or whether or not anyone might have had reason to complain about me. Whew! Have you ever stopped and think of that? I think, examine your own conscience. Review what you did for the day. Did you do everything you were supposed to do? All the good you were supposed to do? Did you avoid all the bad that you were not supposed to do? I mean, that's hard to do. Especially like I says, I'm coming from Sarasota. So, and everyone knows that traffic on I-4 is a mess. So, did I come here properly and evade all the traffic laws and hopefully not cut anyone off, and where people were saying, hey, you, all that other stuff? I don't know. And so I got to think about that.
Hey, we are in a test and
Hey.
planet, so that's your test, I-4.
Yeah. Well, mine actually started long before that in a place called New Jersey, where honking is a second language. And it's funny too, because even then, I can remember, sorry, I'm violating your little, he gave me some sage advice right before we're starting, and I'm just going to blow right off of it.
Keep doing
When I first joined Spiritism, again, this is New Jersey, everything else, so I-4 traffic is everywhere. You can't just like hop off like you can here, 417, 528, 408, all these other lovely, wonderful CFX road, tollways, and things are all suddenly clear. No, I-4 is everywhere. It's perpetual I-4 traffic. And your blood pressure goes up. Even if you're going 5 miles, or in my case, 90 miles, your blood pressure is going to go up. And then if you get then you get the inconvenience of somebody having a fender bender. Now I go from being on time to 45 minutes late. Yeah, not a happy camper. Fast forward a little bit, I joined Spiritism. I see the cause of the law of cause and effect, karma. And it was like, well, if I keep wishing ill to all these people that cut me off or delay me and everything else, well, eventually that's going to come back to me. And I was like, oh. And my life wasn't that great at the time. So I'm like, okay, I'm already reaping what I was sowing, and I'm sowing more bad seeds, so I'm going to get more bad harvest. So at that time, I started to make the change. So now when someone cuts me off, I start and says, okay, they're probably rushing to the hospital. Somebody's hurt. Their baby's being born. Whatever. Go with God. So I started changing myself. So I said, like, go. God bless you. Go with God. Made the trip a lot less stressful. Just doing that. So I'm starting to do the conscious and everything else, but. I mean, again, like no one in this place is perfect. If we are, we'd be Jesus. So, but we're not, and we're not even going to assume we are. So, reason to complain about me. No, I know I've got 4 exes for sure that can definitely complain about me. But then when I got to think about other people. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I just did the symposium. Hopefully I left there with a good thing. I did my job today, I think. I know I tipped the lady at lunch fairly well. So, but I'm sitting here thinking. I'm pondering. So, but St. Augustine County went on. And it says, those every night who recall all their actions, every night, during the day, and would ask themselves what good or wrong they have done, praying to God and their guardian angel to enlighten them, would acquire great strength for self-improvement because, believe me, this is St. Augustine saying that, believe me, God will assist them. So, I think, weren't you the one that made the suggestion, like read like 5 pages a day or something like that, or was that Al? I couldn't remember. There was someone that made the comments as like just to get a book and just read like a page or 2 a day. Next thing you know, you're through a book without even realizing it. Daniel Sissi. Okay, thank you. So when you're doing your reading, after you do your reading, then you can sit there and do a thoughtful meditation and sit there and relax and think about your day. And then sit there and do a heartfelt prayer and sit there and says, please God. Sometimes even, at least for me, sometimes I have to sleep on it. And I'm sitting there like, did I do everything that's right? If not, please, spirits, you'll let me know with a dream of some kind or some way of knowing that, no, you didn't. So, and then like I says, this was a long paragraph. And that was just St. Augustine here, but then, because then now he's starting to say, like, that was his point of view, but now he's like starting to turn it around to you. So, what have you done? And toward what aim have you acted in particular circumstance? Whether you've done anything that you would blame on others. Golden rule popping up in here. And whether you have done anything that you would not dare profess. Okay. So, golden rule, okay, do unto others as we would have them do unto you. We hear it all the time. Are we living it? I know this has been a fun one for me, and I was talking this with other people, because there's been times when I sit there and says, like, well, what if you change that word, do unto others? Well, it's just like love others as I would love to be loved. That's an interesting little change on it. Work for others as I want others to work for me. Again, another quick little change. Not as good as do unto others as you would have them do unto you, but it kind of breaks it down in smaller bits, a little bit more better, like you said, perspective. And then also when you sit there and it's like things that you would not dare profess. Ooh, boy, I know I get that. I see a lot of that on like Facebook and everything else, where they says like, "Oh, look at my husband. Look what a piece of crap he is," and all that garbage. You see it everywhere. But then like one of the other questions, it was like one of the relationship questions. It was like open discussion. Would you unlock your phone and give it to your spouse? Like, okay. While I was putting this in here, I was like, that's what came to my mind. It's like, okay. Have you done anything you would not dare profess? Well, instead of giving an open phone to a spouse, are you giving your open phone to God and to your guardian angel? Now, they already know. You're already an open phone. They can definitely see. But it's giving you a chance to think about it. It says, are you doing something that you would want to say, oh, I would like to lock that, not share that? That's what that whole thing is. Don't dare profess. So is there any guilty secrets, anything else, the skeletons in the closet, things you're not proud of? That's when we got to sit there and think back, reflect back on that, and say, okay, if you're doing that, is this something that you may need to identify and change? Because I jumped myself a little bit. If it please God to enter the world of the spirits where nothing is hidden when I cower before anyone's gaze. Again, the open cell phone, unlocked cell phone. Because once you're in the spirit world, they can see everything. Because how many times have we seen this? It's like anyone who's read the Andre Louise series, who's read even Heaven and Hell, the part 2, where it talks about all the different spirits. Especially as you, like, even though you get the happy spirits, but as you get in the progressively unhappy spirits, they can sit there and see it's like there was one that was like he was pierced by light and it hurt like arrows because it was shining a light on all his sins. Everything he tried to hide all of a sudden is exposed. And I know I hear this a lot when you follow in the news or politics, where they say like sunlight is the best disinfectant. Well, that's what we're doing. We're trying to bring things in light. But if you can bring it out to light yourself, you're ahead of the game. Because you know yourself. You know your flaws now. You know what you did right. You know what you did wrong. And you know that you're trying to make changes. By knowing yourself, you put yourself in a better position. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. When you start thinking about that and knowing who you are, you kind of set yourself up and it's like, and then you can, because then we'll eventually lead in the question of like, well, who are you? But then who do you want to be? Where do you want to progress to? The Spiritist doctrine is all about evolution. The moral evolution, the spiritual evolution, so intellectual even. It's like they didn't give you the doctrine and they were saying like, okay, this is it, and once you know this, you're done. No. They even sit there and says like specifically wrote it into the doctrine. If science disproves anything in the doctrine, follow science. And so Genesis has got 4 chapters on the uranography of the planet that has now been rendered set to aside. Because now we understand in the 170 plus years since Allan Kardec wrote it, the advances in quantum physics, earth science. We're understanding things that we didn't understand 170 years ago. Heck, we are understanding things that we didn't even understand 20 years ago. And now imagine what they were saying, like all the times when you're back in Kardec's time. So he wrote things from his point of view, that of the knowledge he knew of the day. And now we're progressing further. And Spiritism continues to evolve. One of our, I was talking to, again at the symposium, I was talking to several gentlemen. We were talking about, and I think I brought it up here to some of the people here. It was like, Allan Kardec gave the books back in the 19th century. And that was followed up by like Leon Denis and a few others started writing books. So you had a very small library of books. And that was the basis of the knowledge at the time. Fast forward until about 1920s, 1930s. Now you have Chico, and he's producing a massive library of books. Then you add in Divaldo Franco, massive library of books that he's been providing. So we have this foundation with these small books. And as Spiritism has evolved, we've been adding in all this extra material that's been coming from other spirits through other mediums to help improve ourselves. So when you even go through and do this exercise and know thyself, you can go back and you can look at like André Louis Nassalar. He does a self-reflection even in his own book. Because he sat there and realized that someone came, after he died, a man came in and took over and helped his wife and kids. And then, of course, that person, in the course of the book, spoiler alert, he got sick. So here comes André Louis seeing this man that took over his spot in his family. And he's sick. And yet he sees his wife, and she sees the despair in her eyes and says, "Please, God, not again. I've already lost one husband. Please don't let me lose a second one." And that's when André Louis sat there and reflected, who am I? I'm not the person in a body anymore. I'm the person in the spirit. I'm there to help other people. Just as I was helped in Nassalar. It's my turn to turn around and help others. I was a doctor in that life. I'm a doctor in the spirit world now. I'm going to help this man out. He does. And in the course of the book, that's what made him a member of Nassalar. He didn't realize it was a test, but he passed it. And he did the know thyself. He reflected back on who he was, what the situation is, and then to move forward with it. So I'll just finish with that last one here. Examine what you've done with God, then against your neighbor, and lastly against yourselves. So I almost went, so you know how they say, there's that little phrase, God, family, country. This is God, neighbor, self. You put it in that same order too, God, neighbor, self. And you sit there and you think about it, because it's like, God knows all. And your neighbor's your outer reach, but then you kind of reflect into it. So you're going big and you're working your way in. So, as I said, that research material, noticed, it pulled upon, oddly enough, it went outside Spiritism. But then again, as I was just saying, Spiritism is not above reaching out and expanding its knowledge base. So when we were doing the book, Benjamin Franklin pops in. And we were talking about, and he came up, he was sitting on a boat, 80 days at sea, long time to be on a boat. But then again, that was the only way to do it. And he sat there and thought up his own method of how to know yourself. So he said, he did a chart of 13 virtues and committed to giving strict attention to one. So he was going to say, okay, I got 13, but I'm going to focus in on one a week. I'm going to check for all of them, but one I'm going to be very vigilant on for this week. So I'm going to focus on this one this week, and then he'll go down the list. Next. And then once he finishes the 13 weeks, he'd go back and do it again, and again, and again, and again. He did this all the way up till the end of his life. Now the good thing is the journal or the charts that he kept apparently they're saved. And there was a note saying that while he wasn't perfect, because his method was he'd put a dot on each virtue if he can realize that, no, I didn't do it this time. When he does a self-awareness and he's sitting there like, no, I didn't tip this person, so I was disrespectful, so he puts a dot. And so he started off with he put a lot of dots when he first started, but towards the end of his life, he was reducing the number of dots. So he showed marked improvement because he was actively keeping track of it. Like it says, every 13 weeks, he comes around to the same virtue and focuses on it for an entire week. So he's going back and reflecting on it constantly. So we're going to start with these are the virtues that he picked. And the good thing is this is something that we all can accept, we all can take, or we can do our own. 13 virtues. In the past, I've done the Scout Law with the 12 points of the Scout Law. Put those down. I can maybe go do the same thing. Focus on it. Temperance. Eat not to dullness. Drink not to elevation. Silence. Speak not, but what may benefit others or yourself. Avoid trifling conversation. Okay, well, there goes Facebook, X, and pretty much every social media out there. That just basically went away. It's meaningful conversations. Order. Let all your things have their place. Let each part of your business have its time. And again, another thing that, especially in the modern day, we bleed over so much. We multitask. I mean, me doing road construction, I'm sitting here, there's so many times we sit there, it's like you're going through a road construction zone and there's still people checking their phones and everything else. Oh, crap. And not seeing that we're shifting the lanes or doing something kind of crazy. So they're distracted. Everything has their place, even your time. Resolution, resolve to perform what you ought, perform without fail what you resolve. You make a promise, you keep it. You go to work, you're given a task, you do it. You go to school, you do your homework, you turn it in. If you're in college, definitely there to learn. Learn what you can so that you're to whatever profession you've chosen, when you get to your degree, know it well, so that you can do it well. You make a choice, you fulfill to it. Frugality. Make no expense but to do good to others or yourself. Waste nothing. Another one I know I need to work on a lot. But again, golden rule just popped in again. Do good to others. In industry, lose no time. Be always employed in something useful. Cut off all unnecessary actions. Here's another good one. How much, again, social media is probably a big one in this one that we know today, but how many other things do we have in our day-to-day lives that we can sit there and just cut out and put to a more meaningful task? I was like, for everyone here that's married, they know about the honey-do list. Honey, do this. Honey, do that. And that list never goes away. I'll sit there and it says, hey, honey, can you mow the lawn? Okay, I go out and mow the lawn. 3 days later, it's back on the list again. honey, mow the lawn again. Okay. But that's doing something useful. You're improving yourself, you're improving your house, you're improving things, you're improving the quality of life for your family, whatever. But it's still, you're putting a focus onto it. Because we all know things that we do, when you reflect back on it, we all do things that are like sitting here like total waste of time. So like, I know it's like, gotta binge watch the latest series on Netflix. Yeah. There's your 8 hours gone. Or let's say the black hole that is YouTube. You start one video, the next thing I was like, oh, that one's pretty good. Oh, that one's good. And the next thing you know is you're like, whoa, sun's coming up. I got to go to work, and I never even went to bed. We may have learned some stuff on there, but I was like, was it a good use of our time? Probably not. Sincerity. Use no hurtful deceit. Think innocently and justly, and if you speak, speak accordingly. Now, I know this is also a commandment. Do not bear false witness against your neighbors.
Let your yes be yes, and your no be no.
Correct. This is one I've been lovely seeing. Like it says again, you see it on Facebook with the dating games. Like, oh, make him chase you. No, don't say yes right away. You got to say no. No means yes, and yes means no. What the? No. Let's go to make things simple. Be sincere. Say what you want. Get rid of the confusion. I mean, you just pick up a newspaper. You can just see the confusion anywhere. Pick a topic. It's there. Justice. Wrong none by doing injuries or omitting the benefits that are your duty. Now, we've had, like I said, people here have their professions. Me being an engineer. My job is to improve the roadways so they go better. So like here in Orlando, we're all enjoying the benefits of the I-4 Ultimate now that it's done. But now we're moving on to the next section. So now we're ripping up more sections of road. Actually, if the plan holds, we're extending the Ultimate so it stretches out. And then I keep hearing whispers that they want to extend express lanes all the way to Tampa. Oh boy, that'd be great. That ain't happening anytime soon. But that's my profession, acknowledging there's problems, there's needs. Every time there's a traffic jam, we got to figure something else out and figure out how we're going to do it, how much it's going to cost, a lot of stuff. But we put that work into it to make sure it's benefiting you. So that when we're done with the project, you don't realize that something has been improved. You just fly. Moderation. Avoid extremes. Forbear resenting injuries so much as you think they deserve. Okay, there's resentment. I know that was, again, I have to thank Spiritism for that. I know way back in my pre-Spiritist life, holding grudges, holding resentments, a lot of bad stuff. Again, cause and reaction, cause and effect, all this other stuff. When you sit back and you think about and you start living the moral laws, then you start thinking of and you apply them to your life. Because it's like, I know for everyone here that's been here before, the 3 books of the codification, Spirit's book, Gospel according to Spiritism, and the Medium's book, all 3 have a hook because they all focus on one of the 3 legs of Spiritism. Medium's book is the science, Spirit's book is the philosophy, Gospel according to Spiritism is your religion. One of those 3 usually hooks you. Mine was the Gospel because I was on the religious side and everything else, and having that moral story hook in. So So I was like, when I started thinking about this resentment and all this other stuff, it was one of those things that stopped me, pulled me back in. So that I was like, again, let go of the problems, everything else. The serenity prayer, for those that know it, it actually does a great thing for the moderation when you think about it. You know, God grant me the strength to change the things I can, the ability to ignore the things that I can't change, and the wisdom to tell the difference between the two. That's your moderation right there. And it also gets rid of that resentment. Why worry about something you can't change? Right? So, and again, it's one of these things I see about, like, you see it all this thing, like the communication, everything else. Did you communicate it? No, he should have known. That sounds like that serenity prayer. Change what you can change. If you know that you want him to do something, you got to let him know. Otherwise, just accept the fact that he doesn't know, he can't read your mind, and move on. It's like, we don't yet have mediumship amongst human beings. That's happy planet. I don't even think that's a world of regeneration planet. Cleanliness. Oh boy. Kids are going to love this one. Tolerate no uncleanliness in body, clothes, or habitation. Ooh, Benjamin Franklin tells you to clean up your room. Of course, tells me to clean up my house too. So, but then again, how many people here like seeing a messy person? How many people like seeing a messy house? I mean, this center, he says, like, we have some people come in here and clean the center. I was like, I mean, even though we're here, we're not making a mess, we're not throwing a party and everything else, but still, we respect our center. We take care of our center. We clean up after ourselves. Tranquility. Be not disturbed at trifles or at accidents common or unavoidable. Going back to my little comment about the accident on the roadway. Yeah, it's a major inconvenience for me, but maybe I should have left for work early. You know, no harm with getting to work early. Chastity. Rarely use venery, but for health or offspring. Never to dullness, weakness, or the injury of your own or another's peace or reputation. Okay. I'm not going to go into too much detail on that one, because this is a family meeting and it's public on the video, on the way. Humility. Imitate Jesus and Socrates. Now, even the doctrine mentions that we should follow Jesus. He's the supreme example. We should always emulate Jesus. It's funny that Benjamin Franklin would throw in Socrates. So, and then as I was going through books, now, like it says, we have this massive library of books. And at least from my own personal perspective, because Inner Transformation, Know Thyself, like, I know, like it says, there's a workbook that was on the Federation site that was my other center, kind of was one of the ones that helped develop it. And I know we went through a program, and it was like, I think like a 12-week course. So we would do a section of the workbook every week. It became, we almost wanted to split it off and make it its own meeting. So it's like anyone that was new to the center, you had an intro to Spiritism, and then you followed up with an inner transformation. So you had, and it was like a 24-week course. Now, thankfully, the Federation they made slides and presentations. You can go watch it up there, and they makes it, so they, again, go to now YouTube, and you can see it all. But going forward in time, we were sitting here looking at it, it's like, again, we have all these books, we have all these doctrines, And especially when you start branching out from the main codification. Like here, I got Joanna DeAngelis, Self-Discovery, Inner Search. So it's, now, unfortunately, Joanna DeAngelis, when you go start reading, especially when she goes into psychology, she doesn't hold back. So when you have here, you may want to have not just a regular dictionary, but you may want to have a medical dictionary next to you, because it challenges you. But then again, that's for your inner transformation, that's for your inner growth. So you will get smarter, you will get better reading some of these books, especially when she's in her psychology mode. Thankfully, like, not all of her books are that way. So, because that was one of the common things, is like some people were actually afraid of Joanna DeAngelis because she holds humanity to rise up to a higher level. And then, of course, we had Mr. Dan Sissi here a couple months ago, and then later on, I know all of us here in the center, we made a choice to go through each step of our road to Damascus. And I went back and I looked at it, and I was sitting there saying, like, okay, that could also be used in a smaller context of a know thyself. When you sat there and you do a Damascus, like, treat things as a Damascus moment. Like, you're going to know yourself and treat it as a Damascus moment. So you're going to make a commitment to your change and everything else. You're coming face to face with this new reality. It's like, hey, I'm going to be in a position where I know who I am. And then with the choice to move forward in this new life. So you can sit there and pull upon that book, this book. Again, I mentioned Andre Louise. Paul and Stephen is another great one to read, because as you read that book, you see Saul convert to Paul. And it's not an easy transition. Because he sat there as like, hey, I'm the stuff. I know I used to be a part of the Sanhedrin. I can go in there and give a lecture, and bam, everyone will love me. That was great when he was a member of the Sanhedrin, but then he had his Damascus moment. Then all of a sudden he's going to totally go against what everyone thinks and believes, and he flopped. He failed. Because he thought, just do what I used to do. You've changed. And you have to change how you present yourself, everything else. You have to know yourself. He thought he knew himself, but he didn't take into account recent changes. And then you sit there and see it goes through. And then I really love it when his Stephen and I forgot the woman he loved. Abigail, thank you. When Stephen and Abigail would come to him and encourage him and step up to him and say, hey, you've got this. Love nonetheless. Work. I was like, they pick him up and say, and go. And he sat there and it focused on it to the point, then he sat there and says, okay, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to learn to sew and fix tents and everything else. He's going to humble himself and make himself better. And then as we were talking to, as you see him present and work and humble himself and everything else, and he also came to realize, it's like, then he realized, like, oh, look what I did. Like, instead of loving my neighbor as oneself, the golden rule and everything else, I persecuted people. Not realizing that the woman he loved, Abigail, he condemned her brother. And that shook everything up. And then he had to sit and face that, to the point where you see that if you read the epistles in the Bible, you see his humility. You see that he does not elevate himself up.
What I love about Road to Damascus is that most of the other literature don't say too much, is that before you change, you have to accept yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't accept that you have the flaws, then it's harder to change because then you don't understand what you need to change. You just understand that you have to change this, and that. But
Yep.
if you condemn yourself by having all those flaws, that will not going to be easy to change. Admit, and then change.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that like one of the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous? Admit you have a problem, and then you progressively turn around and you go after it and you focus in it. Exactly. Exactly. And I guess it's a know yourself. And we're seeing this in we're seeing this in so many methods and so many things and everything else. And so it's like, so know who you are. And like it says, the spirits are definitely telling you, know yourself. And they're giving you help. Like it says, they wrote a lot. I mean, at the first they say, yeah, just know yourself. And then Alan Kardec challenged them and says, yeah, we do need to know ourselves. But how do you know yourself? And then the Spirit says, like, yeah, you're right. You need a little bit more of a guidance. Like it says, if I flip to this next page, I left all my notes for when I put this thing together, and I basically left that entire section. It's like 4 slides after it. It's just there, and I'm like saying, like, do I want that? Do I want that? Do I want that? I just left it there, just to show you how big that question, that answer is, and how much effort the Spirits put into it. And also remember, Spirits, when Allan Kardec sent this out, it had to be written twice, at least. Because he sent the same question out and it had to be written by 2 mediums who didn't know each other. I believe that's double blind, or is it blind? But anyway, he sent it out. He got responses from 2 mediums from 2 places who didn't know each other. They wrote the exact same answer. So the Spirits had to write that twice. In fact, they had to write the entire Spirits book twice. But they want to put that effort into you. I says, I know that for me, why I'm on this stage is because that spoke to me and says, yes, I need to change. I need to know myself, and I need to find my flaws, identify them, just as you said, so I can focus in on addressing them. And I hope you do the same.